Welcome back to the introduction to the CSE Science and Technology section. As you can see, we're back on the first slide again. And as you can also see, I like to use cartoons when I teach. And sometimes there's no other reason than I thought the slide needed some spicing up, so I've added a cartoon. And that's the case here. Moving on to the second slide. This is my contact information. And my office hours are from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Mondays. And I have to say, I will probably be in the office, but if I don't know you're coming, I might not be. So it's really best to make an appointment with me if you plan to come to office hours. Otherwise, I'm glad to see you if you just feel like dropping by, but you may not find me. Moving on, course details. These are all available in the course of study, and I don't think it would be really useful if I spent a lot of time going over them here. We're using Pepper, and Pepper is central to the course. So the big thing to know is that each week's work is in a separate conference, and I've got instructions and readings and everything posted in those conferences. As well, there's a separate conference for the assignments and sub-conferences for each assignment. So you don't have to worry too much about looking at the details on the course of study. It'll be there in the course conference, and the purpose for the conferences for the assignments is so that you can discuss them. And if you have any questions or any problems, you can ask me and let me know, and so on and so forth. And if I can't answer them, or if I don't answer it quickly enough, probably either Anna or one of the other students can answer them for you. So we'll go over the course of study in a little more detail in the second week, but it's there for you. You can read it, and there's information in Pepper, and you can always ask questions. All right, moving on to the next slide. This is a question I literally do ask myself almost every day. I'm very concerned about how things are going. I see us in the period of the most rapid change in human history, and I don't see us really preparing the students for it. Now, this is a case where the cartoon is actually relevant here. I hope there's a lot of job openings that involve filling in bubbles with number 2 pencils. We're not so bad up here, but in the United States, they seem to have gone just absolutely mad, and they're testing everything that moves. It's a little bit crazy, and I'm not entirely convinced they're testing the right stuff, and I'm not entirely convinced we're teaching the right stuff for the future. And that means that probably you're going to see a lot of changes during the time you have your teaching career, and you're going to be asked to make changes, and you're going to have to adapt very quickly to some of these things, because things are happening faster than you might think, and we'll look at that in a moment. So this is a framework I find particularly useful in thinking about what's going on right now. This is based on some material by a French educator and philosopher and multimedia professor named Pierre Lévy. I've given a reference at the bottom there. This particular bit is based on stuff that's in his book, Collective Intelligence, Man's Emerging World in Cyberspace. And he views the ages in human history not as ages, but as anthropological spaces. And when I first read that, I thought, well, how precious. Here we have an educator, a university type, who took a simple word, 1 syllable, age, and made it into a 6-syllable word. So, yeah. And then I finally understood what he was actually going on about, and I thought, well, this is a useful way of looking at things. So an anthropological space relates to how we interact with the world. And in the Stone Age, we interacted with the world through stone, bone, wood, and other simple tools like that. The social structure was largely tribal, and education was informal and usually taught through the tribe, which was an extended family. So that was how things went. And ages and anthropological spaces do not. And a lot of the elements that were present in the Stone Age are still present today. We work with stone. We use tools that are made of wood. I have some wooden kitchen tools that I use and things like that. We do all kinds of things that are still similar to the Stone Age, but we also have another layer added on, The agricultural age. And in the agricultural age, the entire social and political structure changed to city-states and kingdoms, and eventually to empires. The idea of a profession appeared, and formal education appeared in the form of formal apprenticeships. Now, some apprenticeships were informal, and women largely learned their profession of being women in an informal manner. But the boys were sent off about age 10 to learn a particular skill. Now, this is where they got formal education. Some people did not, of course. But the boys would be sent off to learn a particular skill, and they would go through an apprenticeship period and would be able to say at the end that they had apprenticed and could do certain things and could prove they do certain things. The agricultural age ended, but the agricultural anthropological space did not go away, and we still do things that way. But we've got another layer on top of that. The industrial age. The industrial age, again, changed how politics ran and how society ran and how things got done. And the big change was the use of machines to replace human muscle power, which had previously been the way things were done. For educational purposes, we find the emergence by the late 1800s of mandatory public education through publicly funded industrial model schools, and that continues today. But we've moved on from the industrial age as well, and we're now in what I am calling the knowledge age here, another anthropological space. Now, I've actually counted 14 separate names for this, and I stopped counting then. One of the current ones that's being used by Justin Trudeau and members of the World Economic Forum is the fourth industrial age, but I think I'm going to stick with the knowledge age here. In each of the previous things, in each of the previous anthropological spaces, we saw a change in how politics was done. We saw a change in how society was run and the tools that were used. I would expect no less in the knowledge age. I would expect that there's going to be a change in political structures. I would expect there's going to be a change in society. We're already seeing some of those changes. And certainly the tools we used have changed. And one of the things that's readily obvious is that innovation is central and will be virtualized through the use of online courses, etc. Now I'm going to stop here because I'm keeping these videos short, and we will move along with the rest of the presentation in a separate section, part 3. Thank you.